All right, as we continue on with our graphing calculator investigations, learning about graphing calculators, we're going to first look at this, at what happens if the graph doesn't show up. So if we were to graph 2 times the quantity of x plus 12 plus 15, quantity squared plus 15. And again, we always want to press zoom 6 to start, which is a standard window. And when we look at that, there's nothing that shows up. What's going on? Is the calculator broken? Is there no graph? What in the world is going on? So if I press second table, I can see why nothing's showing up, because all these y values are so big. That's why I don't see it. It's just not in my window. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and find the low point, the vertex. So if I notice, my values are getting lower here. So I'm going to keep going up until I find that exact low point, the vertex. Ooh, look at that. So right now, I see negative 15 is going to be my lowest, because then it goes 17, 17, 23, 23, 33, 33. So I know my vertex is going to be at negative 12, 15. Make sure you guys can read that. Vertex at negative 12, 15. So it doesn't mean, it says, doesn't mean that there's no table or no graph. It just means we have to change our window. All right, so here is how we change our window. We press window, and we have to think about this kind of similar in terms of domain and range. So x values are left and right. The vertex of that x is at 12, negative 12, so we have to go even farther to the left than that. So my x minimum is going to be the smallest x. So I'm going to make that negative 20 for right now. My x max, I'll keep it at 10. It doesn't need to be changed. The x scale you keep as 1. The y minimum, that's fine at negative 10. But my y max is what needs to be changed, because right now my vertex is only at 15. It's only getting higher from there. So I'm going to do like 80. So again, the window we did was negative 20, 10, 1, negative 10, 80, and 1. We press graph, and lo and behold, look at that beautiful parabola right there. It looks great. We can see it clearly, and we can see the vertex, and we can see which way it opens. We can sketch a graph right now. So we'll put sketch, because there is a difference between a sketch and an actual graph. So a sketch, we're going to just be right around this quadrant and have it opening upward. We'll talk about the difference between a graph and a sketch coming up, but for now, sketch is good. Just remember, when you go back, you want to press zoom 6 on your own. Zoom 6 gets you back to that standard window, which you always want to get back to. All right, try to come up with a window for this graph and see if it works for you. All right, so when we look at this, again, when I graph that one on my own, there's nothing shows up. So I look at my table to try and find what I got. So look at all these negative numbers. So do you see how these are getting more negative? So I want to try and go this way. And now look right here, 14, negative 22. And then I see that symmetry on either side. So our vertex in this case is going to be 14 and negative 22. And so I'm going to have to think of a table that would work. And I have to think about what my x min and x max is going to be. So my vertex has an x value at 14. So I don't have to change my x min. So I'm going to keep that at negative 10. But my x max I do have to change, because right now it's at my vertex is 14. So I got to go much farther to the right than that. So I'll do 25, we'll say. Anywhere between 20 and 30 I'd say would be a good spot. My scale I never change, keep it at 1. The minimum, this is where we have to change a lot, because right now it's at negative 22 and our values only get more negative. So therefore I'm going to go a lot lower than negative 22. I'm going to do like negative 150. My y max I can just leave at 10, and my y scale. So I type those in, negative 10, 25, negative 150, 10. And I go to my graph now, and look at that, I see it. All right, I do see a U shape. If I made my x values even larger, I could also get a little bit more of the U shape, but I get a good idea of what it looks like. So again, that would be in the bottom right quadrant. Since it is just a sketch, we can just go like that. And again, make sure you write the word sketch here, don't graph. Sketch. All right, and last but not least, we're going to talk about how to find some mins and maxes and roots or intercepts on this. So it says not all x-intercepts or zeros, so x-intercepts, another name is zeros, maxes and mins land on integer x values. The calc menu is helpful in these situations. So you press second trace to get the calc. Second trace, that's how we get calc. In order to calculate a zero, max or min, you must be able to see the zero, the max, or the min in the viewing window. Okay, so if you can't see the max or min or a root or an intercept, then it can't calculate it. You gotta see it in the window. Here's how you calculate the zeros or the roots or the x-intercepts. Might want to make a note of that. X-intercepts. So if we look at our example here, so we said clear this out. Negative, again, make sure you use the negative sign, not the minus sign. X plus 1 squared plus 7. I press zoom 6 to get back to my standard window. And if I wanted to ask what's the roots, the zeros, or the x-intercepts, all those are the same. It's crossing between two tick marks. So they're going to be a decimal. So the way I do that, I follow these steps here. So I graph it, I press second trace, which is calc, 2 for 0, and then it says left bound, right bound. So I have to figure out, I'm going to find the one on the left first. So I have to make my cursor go to the left of this root. So although it's down, it's also to the left, because right here's the root, it's to the left of it. And then it says right bound, so I got to scroll up and go on the other side of it to the right. It says guess, I press enter one more time, and it tells me that the one x-intercept is negative 3.645, I'll round to 8, comma 0. All right, try doing the same thing for the other root there. So again, we would press second calc, 0. Now it says left bound, so I know to make sure I'm to the left of this x-intercept, which is going to be right here. It's going to be above the graph, the intercept. And then right, so I got to go to the right of it. You always press enter when it says guess. And my other one is 1.6458, comma 0. All right, so that's find the x-intercepts. You can also do mins and maxes. Okay, so it's the same equation here. To find my, in this case, it would be a max. Oops. I'm going to, again, use the calc, second calc. But now look, there's minimum and here's maximum. Well, since we have a maximum on this one, the minimum's not going to work. So make sure you press which one it has. This has a max. And again, it's going to say the left bound, right bound. So if my max is here, I want to make sure I'm to the left of that, which would be here. To the right of my max would be over there. And then guess, you always just push enter one more time. So make that -1. I'm not sure why calculators do that sometimes. It gives you a long decimal. That is actually 1. So -1, 7. All right, try doing this one on your own. And the last thing we're going to look at you should have gotten answers of 1.5858, comma 0, 4.414, comma 0. Those were your x-intercepts. So you should have gotten the x-intercepts to be negative or 1.5858, comma 0, and 4.4141, comma 0. And your minimum, this one had a minimum, so you had to do second calc minimum, was 3, -4. All right, the last thing we're going to look at is errors. So sometimes you get errors. You need to know how to fix them. If you get a syntax error, that means you plugged something in wrong. So normally it's like a misplaced parentheses. You used a subtraction sign instead of a minus sign or a negative sign, things like that. So for example, if I type this in, let's say I did x plus 1 quantities squared, and I press graph, it says syntax error. Always press the go to for the syntax error. And it's telling me, oh, it's blinking on the parenthesis. It says I have the closed parenthesis, but I never had the open parenthesis. So then you have to realize, oh, if I press second insert here, I can use the open parenthesis here, and now it works. Similar thing would happen if you used a minus sign instead of a negative sign. The error in window range. So let's say you were trying to graph this again, and you got this error window range. Well, it doesn't give you a go-to, just press quit. But error window range means you gotta go to your window, and normally it means like your minimum is greater than your maximum, something like this. And if you notice, look right here, my x minimum was 100, and my x maximum was 10. That doesn't make sense. Your minimum can't be larger than your max. So then you should just make that whatever you want, -10. Another quick fix for that is just press zoom 6. Always get you in a standard window. And then last one, if you get this invalid dim, which I don't know how that happens, but people get it all the time, it means your stat plots are turned on. So if you press second stat plot, make sure these stat plots are always turned off. All right, and again, the solutions for these are right here. All right, and that is Graph and Calculator 101.